Cop City. It was explained by Kamal Franklin, and I am going to share what the explanation of Cop City is, and then share some details with you as well. And it is very important that you guys know what this is because this can happen. Uh, it's something that can happen to any city within us, and this is going to affect us as a nation. So, and Kamal Franklin will be on next week. So, look forward to that. But this is what the explanation of Cop City is.
Cop City is an idea that came after the 2020 uprisings by the city of Atlanta, the Atlanta Police Department, and the Atlanta Foundation, Atlanta Police Foundation. The idea basically is that they want to develop a militarized police base that's right next to a black and brown working class community. And by building this space, they want to cut down over 100 acres of forest. They want to develop an area where there's a room for explosives testing, over 12 firing ranges, a place where there's a Black Hawk helicopter landing pad, a training center for them to practice crowd control. We should also mention that they are engaged in international training with the Israeli police. And so we think this project really is the beginning of a militarized police base here in Atlanta, which will be the largest facility of its kind in the country. And the reason for doing this, coming out of the uprisings, we believe, is to stop movement politics and movement building in Atlanta, to coordinate efforts across the country with other police departments and now internationally to stop movement building. And we think this is going to be further sort of terroristic action on Black and brown communities by a police state. Cop City is
So that's the breakdown of what Cop City was. And I can't wait to have Kamal Franklin on next week. We're going to be talking more about his evolution and things like that. And then we're going to touch on as well as the further uh, the further issues surrounding Cop City that have actually been happening today. That is really is ever changing on the ground as we speak in Atlanta. So if you guys did not know about Cop City, this is basically what it is. And I just want to break down just a little bit about the things that he's saying, just to expound on the seriousness of Cop City.
Cop City is an idea that came after the 2020 uprisings by the city of Atlanta.
So if anybody remembers, if you remember the protests after the murder and assassination of George Floyd by the hands of police, this was a huge wake up call to a couple people. It was a huge wake up call to those of us as citizens to see that how much power we really have in numbers. And this is also a huge wake up call to the powers that be, the corporate dictators, right? And so, because of the corporate dictators, they saw this as dangerous to them because they don't want people to organize like this. Let's see. And so, let me see. Okay. Oop. So I'm going to show you guys the corporations that are behind or supporting Cop City as well. All right. So you guys can see this. These are the corporations that are really behind Cop City. Oops. I wanted to put that down. What's that? Okay. Okay. So we can actually have all the names. Then I will do this. Okay. So as you can see, these are the corporations that are behind Cop City that are helping them out. So you have Wells Fargo, Amazon, and a lot of people, a lot of right wingers are like, oh my God, Chick-fil-A, they're participating in DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. We're going to get rid of them. Chick-fil-A, look, Chick-fil-A is participating in increasing militarized police. They are not on the left. People need to wake up. Delta Airlines, UPS. By the way, there might be, if UPS does not agree with the Teamsters, if they don't come to an agreement with the Teamsters, then the Teamsters and the unions for UPS are going to be having a massive strike beginning on August 1st. And that strike will be over 350,000 UPS workers. It's going to be major. So that's just a point of just to let you guys know. Home Depot, Inspire Brands, right? Georgia State University, the Atlanta Hawks, and State Farm Arena. Accent Enterprises, previously Taser, of course. Waffle House, as many people from prisons that they employ, they're behind this. And then JP Morgan Chase. They're all in league with the Atlanta Police Foundation. So that just lets you know that the corporate dictators are behind this. Now, let's go back to the video to break it down a little bit further.
The Atlanta Police Department and the Atlanta Foundation, Atlanta Police Foundation. The idea basically is that they want to develop a militarized police base that's right next to a Black and brown working class community. And by
so to add insult to injury, is right next to us, basically. And so not only are we already disproportionately being targeted by them, but now they're building, the police base right next to our community in front of us. Like, that's like building a slaughterhouse, next to a wildlife refuge for cattle. You know what I'm saying? Crazy, man. Let's continue.
By building this space, they want to cut down over 100 acres of forest. They want to develop an area where there's a room for explosives testing, over 12 firing ranges, a place where there's a Black Hawk helicopter landing pad, a training center for them to practice crowd control. We should also mention that they are engaged in international training with the Israeli police. And so we think this project really is the beginning of a militarized police base.
So if anybody knows what's going on with the Palestinians in Gaza and how the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force, actually treats the Palestinians, and the police are being trained by them, then you know that this is bad. This is very bad. And the fact is that, and I wrote this down because this thought came to my head. What is the difference between the military and the police? It's just a name. Imperialism is now in the US. So it's now how we had imperialism outside the US, it's come inward now. What they did to people in Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, Somalia, many other countries, is going to happen in our borders. The only difference is that the soldiers will be wearing badges. This is imperialism fulfilled. That's what's happening. People would say, "Oh, they would never use the U.S. They would never use the U.S. military against civilians." They're turning the police into a military against civilians. They would never do that. They're doing it now. They're doing it now. So to all those people that got the "don't tread on me" flags, oh no, this is tyranny, don't tread on me. Why aren't you out at Cop City saying stop Cop City? Why aren't you out there? Y'all, come on. All you right-wingers that talk about, oh, well, we need to have a militia in order to stop the tyranny, just in case it happens. It's happening in front of you. It's happening. And some of y'all support this? Wait, hold up. Wait. Some of y'all support this. Y'all talk about tyranny and you support this? Get the out of here, man. Y'all talking about y'all are against tyranny and y'all literally see it happening in front of your face. Y'all unserious, man. You got people out there with no weapons whatsoever that are defending it. The soy boys are actually out there defending and fighting tyranny. The soy boy, you guys gonna allow the soy boys to beat you guys at defending the country against tyranny? Is that how it is? Yeah, that's right. The soy boys got bigger balls than you. Put your money where your mouth is. Go ahead and defend them. You guys love hunting, fishing, all that stuff. They're taking that away from y'all. That area that's known as the lungs of Atlanta and Georgia, they're taking that away, man. Come on now. Tyranny's knocking at your door. What you gonna do? Let's defend these protesters that are going against Cop City. Defend them. Some of you guys fought in the military. You said you will protect and defend the Constitution, against all enemies, both foreign and domestic. Well, it is domestic. Man.
Here in Atlanta, which will be the largest facility of its kind in the country. And the reason for doing this, coming out of the uprisings, we believe, is to stop movement politics and movement building in Atlanta, to coordinate efforts across the country with other police departments and now internationally
to coordinate with other police departments. This means that they will be coming to a police department near you. So whenever you're trying to organize, whenever you're trying to build dual power, this will be the training facility that they will use in order to stop you from changing the system. This is what Cop City is. Fascism, man.
Stop movement building. And we think this is going to be further sort of terroristic action on Black and brown communities by a police state.
So, yeah. Further police state. Now, let's go into a little bit more of the explanation. This is at stopcop.city. And it says no police military base in Weelaunee Forest. So the city of Atlanta has released 381 acres of Weelaunee Forest, stolen Muskogee land, to the Atlanta Police Foundation for a police military facility funded by corporations. Cop City will never be built. Hashtag Stop Cop City. Says, and it gives the explanation. And is a mock city to practice urban warfare, dozens of shooting ranges, and a Black Hawk helicopter landing pad. It says making Atlanta the most surveilled city in the United States. Now, by the way, Atlanta is a black city, so of course it's going to be the most surveilled. It says the Atlanta Police Foundation funds Operation Shield, a citywide network of nearly 11,000 surveillance cameras and license plate readers that has only expanded the round-the-clock monitoring of Black Atlantans. The Atlanta Police Foundation spent more than $2.6 million, nearly one-third of its reported 2017 expenses, on the Operation Shield surveillance program, eclipsing other expenses such as the At Promise Youth Initiative, a youth center that puts Black children and their families in direct contact with law enforcement. Both Operation Shield and At Promise Youth Initiative are part of the multi-million-dollar West Side Security Plan to increase police presence in the predominantly Black neighborhoods in Atlanta's West Side, a gentrification pressure area. It says in direct contact with law enforcement. In a 2019 report by the technology research firm Comparitech, ranked Atlanta as the most surveilled city in the United States in terms of cameras per capita, 66. Let's see. The ACLU has raised concerns that video surveillance has not been proven effective, citing a study that noted that because of discriminatory targeting, Black people were between 1.5 and 2.5 times more likely to be surveilled than one would expect from their presence in the population. Operation Shield relies on private funding and encourages private businesses to connect their cameras with police through a video surveillance hub that blankets Atlanta business districts. Atlanta Police Foundation is also working with Atlanta Police Department on an expanded program called Operation Aware, a predictive policing platform and criminal analytics software partnership with Microsoft to link the Operation Shield surveillance networks to databases of recently scanned license plates, vehicle registration records, and individual criminal records to start suggesting possible suspects almost automatically in a real-time crime center. Wasn't there a movie about this? Wait. Wasn't it called Minority Report? Wasn't there a movie about this? About arresting people for crimes that they didn't even commit yet? Are y'all eyes open yet? Do you see? Do you see it now? Yo, we got to talk. We got to talk. All right, let's go to the next one. It says predictive crime algorithms make racially biased policing even worse. Hello, AI. According to a 2017 study by Cornell University, predictive policing software may spark feedback loops where police are repeatedly sent back to the same neighborhoods regardless of true crime rate. Using surveillance and crime algorithms to almost automatically identify suspects, increase unwarranted stops and searches, police presence in majority Black neighborhoods, and police brutality against Black people. By design, the Atlanta Police Foundation's Operation Shield and Operation Aware programs increase police presence and public space surveillance in already over-policed communities. Instead of supporting community-based public safety initiatives that keep people safe, police foundations directly donate or help police departments pay for surveillance software and equipment, military weapons, SWAT team equipment, and other tools that are used to terrorize Black people. By expanding police surveillance in Atlanta, the Atlanta Police Foundation has also expanded operating costs for the city. The Atlanta Police Foundation paid for the cameras and the first 3 years of maintenance, leaving Atlanta on the hook for ongoing costs. This leads to contracting and oversight issues. When the police department and city did not immediately cover subsequent billing and maintenance of the cameras, up to 250 cameras were left dead for months. Corporate involvement in Atlanta police have left communities two flawed options: harm from over surveillance or a waste of taxpayer dollars, neither of which ensures public safety. And so this is deeply important. This is why Cop City is so dangerous. I'm going to put the link in the chat so you guys will have that, because this is deeply important, because this will be a center that is used across the nation in order to fight against you. That's what this is. So I'm sharing it into the chats. All right. So there was a hearing in Atlanta yesterday. And so I'm going to be showing some of the results from people in Atlanta. And you guys know last week I had on Chuck Modiano, journalist Chuck Modiano, and he actually shared video footage, raw video footage from the people coming in to City Council in Atlanta. So let's take a look there.
Cop City will never be built. 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 Cop City will never be built.
So they're saying Cop City will never be built. And these are all the citizens, right? But I want you guys to take a look. I'm going to pause it at a certain point. I want you guys to see. Wait. All those people up there are cops. They're all surrounding, looking at the citizens. Look at it. Look, all those cops. Are they there for safety? Or are they there to intimidate? You tell me. That's what it looks like to me. It looks like intimidation. They will use intimidation tactics. He also says, let us speak. Let us speak. Hundreds waiting in line are told they may not be able to speak. This doesn't include hundreds more in line outside around the block, not allowed into the building. If you didn't arrive an hour early, you're likely not getting inside the building. So the line is out the building for city council. And so there's more. And Chuck Modiano is reporting that chant has been going, that went on for 15 minutes. Let's go here. So they're chanting, "Let them in." Whoo, boy, this is massive. And the thing is that that city does not, the city and the citizens do not want it, but these corporations and the politicians are pushing for this. And this just shows that the system is against its own people. Now, there is a clip that I want to play from Democracy Now! And they're also talking about it. And they've actually doubled the amount of money for Cop City. Let's get into it.
Turnout at a city council meeting Monday as thousands lined up to voice their opposition to the construction of a massive police training facility known as Cop City. Atlanta police enforced enhanced security as people signed up to participate in a public comment session ahead of a vote to approve $30 million in additional funding for Cop City, bringing the total to $67 million, more than double the original estimate. It would be the largest police training facility in the country. This comes after an Atlanta police SWAT team, guns drawn, raided the Atlanta Solidarity Fund last Wednesday and arrested 3 people who'd been raising money to bail out protesters opposed to Cop City, charging them with money laundering and charity fraud. Georgia Democratic Senator Reverend Raphael Warnock criticized the arrests in a statement Sunday, saying, quote, "While we still don't have all the details, as a pastor who's long been engaged in justice work, I'm concerned by what we know about last Wednesday's show of force against the organizers of an Atlanta bail fund and the questions it raises," he said. Those arrests come as 42 protesters face charges including domestic terrorism for opposing Cop City, and after Atlanta police shot dead the environmental activist Manuel Tortuguita Terán in January. An autopsy shows they were sitting with their hands raised up in front of their body when police shot them 57 times. This is Muskogee Indigenous leader Neko Chabon addressing the Atlanta City Council on Monday.
I am a part of the Methodist structure. I have been a part of the United Nations Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues. I have been with conversations of human rights all across the world. I have walked with refugee camps in other parts and other nations of indigenous peoples. I've seen situations just like what we're going through here in other countries. I've seen things going on where people have been killed, just like what we're trying to say should never happen here.
Remember what I said about imperialism is now inside the United States? What did you just say about refugees in other countries? Forever wars are now in our borders.
All over the world, and I don't want that to increase. Every time in these countries, I shared with them, no matter what, how you slice it, the increasing of more militarized mechanism never establishes a peaceful society, no matter what. It never accomplishes what your hopes, what your arguments are. In fact, it does quite the opposite. In fact, our community, we are already living through the living proof of that at this moment. Today, I think it's obvious. I don't support Cop City.
Monday's Atlanta City Council meeting started in the afternoon and continued for nearly 15 hours until about 5 a.m. this morning. At one point, protesters broke out in song as public comment continued.
Recess has expired.
So I'm just going to skip the singing part. Let me see.
The Atlanta City Council voted 11-4 to fund the Cop City facility. For more, we go to Atlanta for an update. Marlon Counts is with us, an organizer with the Atlanta Solidarity Fund, who was one of the 3 people arrested last Wednesday and just spent 4 days in jail. Also with us, one of the first to speak during Monday's public comment session, Reverend James Woodall. He's a public policy associate at the Southern Center for Human Rights and co-author of Wired for Racism: How Evolution and Faith Challenge Racial Idolatry. We welcome you both to Democracy Now! Reverend Woodall, let's begin with you. When you arrived at the Atlanta City Hall to give your public comment, can you talk about the different level of security and protocol to enter the premises that you'd ever experienced before? Just describe the scene for us and then what you said.
Most definitely. Well, first, let me start by saying thank you for having us on the show today. And when we entered Atlanta City Hall, we were met with bomb dogs. We were met with officers donning AR-15s. We had folks in riot gear. We saw a heightened level of security, both in protocol, meaning when we entered into the city hall, we couldn't even bring in food or water. And people were planning to be there literally all day and all night. And to not even be able to bring in Gatorade, I had to throw my Gatorade out and had to walk out of the city hall, throw it out, and then come back in. And you know, it took a miracle, essentially, to be able to even bring pizza in towards the latter portions of the afternoon and into the evening. And we saw law enforcement officers really on every single level of the city hall in the inside of the atrium. And so I had never seen that kind of activity in which our law enforcement response would essentially, criminalize in some ways what we were trying to do, which was to lift up the voice of the people.
So it's intimidation, right? That's what it is. It's intimidation to force you to not exercise your right. That's what it is. Let's be real. A lot of people will be like, oh, well, they were just trying to keep things safe. Like, no, they weren't. No. It's intimidation. Point blank, period. Now, I'm not going to play this entire thing, but one of the things that I want to go to is how the loss of democracy is actually bipartisan. Let me go to, let me see. We can go right there. So let's go here and let's continue.
And this was a marathon meeting of the Atlanta City Council. Your response to the outcome and the vote, and did you get a sense that any members of the City Council were moved at all by the testimony?
Well, what I'll tell you is that is an example and is indicative that our democracy has died. And the spirit of democracy has died because when the people show up and you see both parties, this isn't a red versus blue, Democrat versus Republican kind of issue. We saw Republicans come out in opposition. We saw libertarians come out in opposition. You saw Democrats come out in opposition. You saw people who are not affiliated with any of the above come out in opposition. And when you see elected officials choose the side, not of the people, right? Not of justice and liberty for all, but when you see elected officials take the side of corporate executives and nonprofit leaders who seek to profit off of taxpayer dollars, right? What we should be talking about is charity fraud on behalf of the Atlantic Public Foundation, because of what we've seen them do and how the numbers have just not added up. And so I'm concerned that our democracy is dead because our elected officials are not representing the people, regardless of who they vote for.
When it's bipartisan, that's how you know it's in the system. It's systemic. This is why we try to change the system. But the system will be violent. Whenever you try to change the system, it will use violent means in order to resist that change. And I'm going to tell y'all right now, if you guys get on Rockfin, you guys go to my channel on Rockfin, read it on my Rockfin channel. Go ahead. All right. I'm telling you right now, this is what it's about. It is a bipartisan push to take the intrinsic rights that we have as people away. Now, let me go. Let me see. Go to here. Actually, yeah. Let's go to here.
That's right. Because if this kind of police violence can be brought even against organizers like us who who do nothing more than make sure that activists have access to lawyers, who make sure that they.
So just to let you guys know, the Atlanta Solidarity Fund is organized by him and a couple other people, and they actually were raising money for bail funds for people who were arrested for protesting Cop City. And so they actually raided his home early in the morning so that they can put them under arrest.
They're able to make bail if they can't afford it themselves. If this kind of violence can be brought against people like us, who is safe in this city? And what does that mean for the right to protest and democracy?
Now, they basically went against the people who are trying to help people make bail. I'm going to share something with you guys. Any of you guys remember the video? Okay. It says, if the penalty for a crime is a fine, then that law only exists for the lower class. This is from the video game. Based, right? Now think about that when they try to jail and arrest the people who are raising funds for people who are opposing Cop City. Now, they were providing an equalization so that the lower class in Atlanta doesn't have to do time for exercising their First Amendment right. So the powers that be and the police saw them as a threat. Make no mistake. If a rich benefactor was doing the same thing, that rich person would have been targeted as well. But we all know that the rich people wouldn't do such a thing largely because they benefit from this system. Now, I'll say this. I appreciate this white man using his privilege to raise funds to help our organizers and to fight against this carceral system that largely targets Black and brown people. And this is why solidarity and building coalitions is so important. Because someone like him, he could have just rested on his laurels and said, I'm a white guy, I can just, chill out, because they're not really going to target me that much. So guess what? You guys leave it for yourselves. But no, he's like, no, you know what? No, because once they go for them, they're going to come for me. And I'm not going to have it. Remember what they said? First, they came for the communists, and I did not speak out before I was a communist. Then they came after the trade unionists, for I did not speak it out in socialist, because I did not speak out because I'm not a trade unionist or socialist. Remember that? Same thing, same idea. This is why building coalitions and solidarity is so important. Because if they're not going to come after you initially, that means they're going to come after you next. It's the same damn thing. And so when it comes to Cop City, this is deeply important. This is why we need to know more about it. Let's go. This is why I'm so, I can't wait to have Kamal Franklin on next week, but let's continue.
And Mona, what happened at your bail hearing on Friday? What was the judge's response to your arrest and the charges against the three of you?
Yeah, I mean, after days in jail, we finally got in front of a judge who confronted the allegations against us, the arrest warrants. And the judge very quickly acknowledged that the charges are baseless. They're nonsensical. We're being charged with charities fraud and money laundering. And the activities of our organization are completely legal. They're transparent. They're above board. We very carefully follow all laws and regulations related to our work because we know that we are in the crosshairs of many political forces. And the judge recognized this and fortunately issued us bail, which has been unusual in these protest cases, which are usually denied bail flat out. And I think this shows that the efforts of prosecutors to demonize organizers associated with the movement against Cop City are beginning to be exposed. They're beginning to become unraveled and shown to be what they are, which is malicious political prosecutions that have nothing to do with enforcing the law, keeping the public safe. What they really have to do with is bringing the force and violence of police and prosecutors to suppress a political movement, to suppress political speech.
I want people to realize this. Even prosecutors, many of them, are some of the oppressors in this. Many district attorneys and attorney generals, as well as judges, are complicit in allowing the police to do what they do. This is in service to the dictators and their corporations, which extract us from our environment unfairly, extract from us and our environment unfairly to enrich themselves. So who are the lackeys in this? It's not just the cops. It's the district attorneys, prosecutors, attorney generals. It's the city council members, mayor. It is systemic. This is why when I say it's systemic, I mean it, because it's going all the way up. So who are they? Who is their master? It's the corporate dictators. And they delegate to the people who are in government, this is what you need to do for us. And then they delegate to the police, which is basically the muscle of the mafia. And that muscle of the mafia basically inflicts their will upon the people in the surrounding neighborhood. And if you don't have money for protection, then they're gonna harass you. Think about it in mafia terms, right? If you don't have the money for the protection, guess what? They're gonna come after you. Who has the money for the protection? The corporate oligarchs, the corporate dictators, the people at the top. Who is getting harassed? Black, brown, and poor people. It's a mafia. This country is ran by mob bosses, and not formal mob bosses. Their mob is just the corporations. And we have to buy from them. We have to utilize them in order for us to live. This is why we need dual power outside of the system, so that we don't utilize them, so we can have a system that is different, that is better, that is egalitarian, that is equitable, that's equal. And they don't want that. And so they will use violent means in order to do it. Everybody talks about, oh, revolution is violent. The thing is, the violence is actually done, is put out by the system. And so when people fight back, that's all it is. It's just people defending themselves and fighting back. So when they shot Tortuguita, when they shot them, that was them saying, I don't care if you're doing it peaceful. We're going to get rid of you anyway. Dr. Martin Luther King, when he was leading those marches during the civil rights, they were wearing loafers. They were wearing very nice church clothes. They didn't have any weapons, and they still have violence against them. That's what it does. That's what the system does. The state perpetuates a violent act in order to keep you down so that you don't change it. When you utilize your freedom of speech, freedom of expression, freedom to assemble, Second Amendment rights, all that, guess what? They say, no, you have no rights here. And then guess what you do? You get eliminated. And the crazy part was Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was actually trying to buy a gun, but they wouldn't allow him to register. He even saw, he was like, shoot, I'm gonna strap up because I need to protect myself. But they wouldn't allow him. He and Malcolm X actually, by the end, were together as far as ideology. There was no real actual contention between them. That's just propaganda. So that's one of the things that we need to recognize. That's why it's so important to fight against this system. And you can do it just by communicating with your neighbors, building solidarity, teaching, using your, mutual aid. You could be teaching people things that, maybe they don't know. Hell, mutual aid could be, baking, or making food for somebody who, doesn't have food. You got to spend your own money. You get some food, you got a little extra food stamps. All right, use those food stamps, to buy some food for somebody. You know what I'm saying? Use your abilities. If you know how to work with computers, and somebody that needs, if you know how to like fix computers, and you have some spare computers, somebody that may need it, or an organization that may need it, donate it. Fix it and donate it. Do some free IT. You know what I mean? So, this is why, independent media is so important. I hope you guys liked the stream, and I hope you guys share. because these issues are so important. And the thing is that a lot of the corporate media they're not going to talk about this. And if they do, it's only because they're only going to take the side of the corporate dictators. They're only going to take the side of the police. They're not going to take the side of the people. And so they'll push this out as, like, for instance, some of them are saying, oh, well, it's just outside agitators that are coming to speak out against Cop City. No, it's not. And even if it's outside agitators, it's people that are going to be indirectly affected by Cop City in their own cities and towns. I live in Florida. I'm right below Georgia. Atlanta's not that far. You don't think that the OPD and Orange County Sheriff's Department is not going to utilize that against my neighborhood? I live in the hood, bro. They're gonna, oh my God. They're already out here all the time. Of course they're going to utilize it against people in me and my neighborhood. And you know who's not going to speak out about it? Maxwell Alejandro Frost. He's busy at a Paramore concert dancing. But he wouldn't dare speak out against this. In fact, he skipped town on supporting Palestinians. And now, guess what? he's basically down with, the Israeli lobby. So yeah, this is why it's so important to talk about these things, man. Let people know about Cop City and let them know how it's going to be a disadvantage to them. Now, I'm going to play this right quick because this gives you the real deal about Cop City. I appreciate this guy. This gentleman. Oh. Okay. I'm going to play this for y'all. And this is going to solidify everything. Okay? And this guy gets it.
I just realized what the intention of Cop City is. And I know a lot of us think it's like urban response, but specifically, Cop City's intention is to teach cops how to deal with protests on a large scale. To be more specific, and if you notice the size of Cop City, it's not a full size, 100,000 people protest. It's specifically enough to learn how to cut the head off the protest, because what is a protester's natural response when cops start swinging? To run. In the Marines, we are taught to attack the first third of a convoy and destroy that, because typically leadership is found in the first third of that convoy. The natural response for a human being, and therefore the most trained response for most forces, to include our army, is when you're cut off, go turn around and go back to where you came from. Regroup, and we'll figure out what to do after. The Marine Corps is one of the few forces that actually teaches, if you're cut off, you treat that like you are the muscles around a wound, you close with, and you destroy whoever attacked that unit. It is the fact that protests do not have a swarm response because we're typically peaceful. Most people attending a protest are not looking to engage with cops. They just want to be seen. They want to feel a part of a bigger message than just themselves. So the fact that we don't have a swarm response in our protests is something the police are going to train to respond to. They want to take that head off of that protest where most of the leaders, most of the excited people are. They want to isolate them, surround them, and torture them while everybody else is fleeing. There's no cameras, nobody to watch. Cop City is about teaching how to treat a protest like a convoy, like a military unit. That's what Cop City is about. Dear veterans, it's time to start getting busy. They're already doing all the planning and moving. What are you doing?
All enemies, foreign and domestic, right? All enemies, foreign and domestic. That's what it's about. Before I go, let me just listen to this really quick. And then I'll end with that. Hang on, because this stuff is ongoing, like literally as we speak. All right, so let's hear what this young person has to say.
Ancestors bled on, and that land that my people continue to bleed on. I want to bring Ancestor Marshall Rancifer into this space and Ancestor Brother Haroon into this space, because they would be here had the city of Atlanta not killed them. I want to thank everyone who came here today who wore a mask, because as we know, cops spread COVID and community spreads care, and we will not believe the state's lies about this pandemic. The last time I addressed this body, Keisha Bottoms was a council member. I remember as Britta Darden, Sharice Brown, Columbus Ward, and Allison Johnson came to this pulpit to plead for their homes. I remember as then Councilwoman Keisha Lance Bottoms sat on her phone and texted and hee-hee and kikied on her phone as people cried on this pulpit. Not a single member of this body is worthy of being addressed today. But you, the people of Atlanta, are worthy of being addressed today. My name is Eva Dickerson. I am a teacher, a farmer, and a neighbor in Atlanta. I love you. I believe in you so deeply. Do you remember 2020 when we took this city, when we took these streets? Do you remember that they were so terrified of our power that they called out by the hundreds over some damn blue flu? Do you remember Keisha Bottoms getting in the pulpit crying and begging us to behave? This is our city. We do not answer to any of these cowards. They answer to us. Andre Dickens answers to us, and he must get to step in. I will close with reminding you of the stakes. Tortuguita was a warning shot. Rayshard Brooks was a warning shot. Jimmy Atchison was a warning shot. Katherine Johnson was a warning shot. Anthony Hill was a warning shot. Scout was a warning shot. Alexia Christian was a warning shot. Jan Robinson was a warning shot. Oscar Kane was a warning shot.
Time has expired.
The state has shown us their hand, Atlanta.
Time has expired.
They've shown us what they would pay for war.
Thank you.
What would you pay for freedom?
Thank you. Demetrius Vaughn.
She ate and left no crumbs. She ate and left no crumbs. With that, thank you so much to everybody for tuning in.